Hey there, folks. Welcome to episode 147 of the Bible Difficulties and Answers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Smith, and today we're wading into a biblical puzzle that's twistier than a pretzel at a county fair. Picture this. You're flipping through Exodus, munching on some popcorn, when you hit a snag that makes you choke on a kernel. In Exodus 20:24, God says, "Build me an altar of earth." But then, in Exodus 27:1, he's calling for a swanky acacia wood altar, decked out in bronze. What's the deal? Did God swap his blueprint faster than I changed my mind about pizza toppings? Or is there a deeper plan at play? Grab your shovels and a few bronze nails because we're diving into this question. Was the altar made of earth or of wood? Let's set the stage. You're an Israelite, fresh out of Egypt, trudging through the desert with a sack of quail meat and a divine to-do list longer than my last grocery receipt. In Exodus 20:24, hot on the heels of the Ten Commandments, God lays down the worship law. Build for me an altar made of earth and offer your sacrifices to me, your burnt offerings, peace offerings, sheep, goats, cattle, the whole barnyard. Build my altar wherever I cause my name to be remembered, and I'll come to you and bless you. That's from the New Living Translation. It sounds simple, right? Scoop some dirt, pat it into a mound, light a fire, and you're good to go. But then, in Exodus 27:1, God drops a new plan. Using acacia wood, construct a square altar, 7.5 feet wide, 7.5 feet long, and 4.5 feet high, with bronze plating for extra flair. That's verse 2. So, are we looking at a divine flip-flop? Or is this altar situation more layered than my attempt at a 7-layer salad? Let's unpack Exodus 20:24 first. This verse hits right after the Ten Commandments, when he's setting the vibe for Israelite worship. The altar of earth sounds like a no-frills setup. Think a dirt pile or maybe some unhewn stones. As Exodus 20:25 clarifies, if you use stones, no tools allowed because that's a pagan faux pas. Why so basic? Brian Newton, in his blog post, An Altar of Earth, Exodus 20:22-26, hits the nail on the head. God wanted worship that was simple, sincere, and free from the corruption of idolatry. Pagan altars were decked out like a Vegas slot machine, but God's like, keep it real, folks. Dirt or raw stones will do. These altars were for pop-up worship spots, anywhere God's name was remembered, like a spiritual food truck dishing out devotion in the desert or the promised land. Ever wonder why God didn't want fancy altars? It's like he's saying, don't bring your blinged-out barbecue grill to my cookout. A campfire will do just fine. Now, flip to Exodus 27:1, and we're deep in God's acacia manual for the tabernacle, that portable worship hub the Israelites hauled through the wilderness. This isn't just any altar. It's the altar of burnt offering, the main stage for sacrifices in the tabernacle courtyard. God's specs are precise. Again, acacia wood, 7.5 feet square, 4.5 feet tall. That's 2.3 meters square and 1.4 meters tall, covered in bronze to handle the heat of daily offerings. This thing's built like a divine black stone grill, sturdy yet mobile for the Israelites' nomadic lifestyle. So, are we dealing with two different altars? One a dirt mound for quick worship, the other a bronze-plated beast for the tabernacle? Or is there a way to square these instructions without a theological meltdown? Could God be running a divine bait and switch, or is there a method to this madness? Here's where the Big Book of Bible Difficulties by Norm Geisler and Thomas Howell serves up a solution smoother than my late uncle's homemade Brunswick stew. They argue the tabernacle altar in Exodus 27:1 is a hollow wooden frame, acacia wood, bronze overlay. And when it's time to use it, you fill it with earth or stones to make a fireproof bed for the coals. They write, the altar itself was only a hollow case made of acacia wood and covered with bronze. But when it was used, it was filled with earth or stones so as to form a bed for the coals. Okay, picture it like a cosmic taco shell. The wood and bronze are the crispy exterior, but the earth inside is the meaty core where the sacrifices sizzle. This makes sense. Wood alone would burn faster than my campfire marshmallows, but dirt or stones can take the heat. So, maybe Exodus 20:24's earth refers to the altar's inner filling, while Exodus 27:1 describes its outer shell. Now, let's flip the script and try another angle, because this one's got more legs than a millipede at a dance-off. What if these passages are talking about two distinct type of altars? Exodus 20:24 seems to cover altars in general for spontaneous worship wherever the Israelites were. These were low-tech, like grabbing a paper plate for a quick snack. The NIV Study Bible backs this, noting that the earth altar was for temporary or local settings, meant to be simple and accessible. Exodus 20:25's unhewn stones rule reinforces this, keeping worship free from pagan flash. John Calvin, in his commentaries on the 4 last books of Moses, puts it sharply. The simplicity was to, and I quote, prevent men from arrogating themselves to any part of the glory, end quote, and avoid mimicking idolatrous altars. Meanwhile, Exodus 27:1 is all about the tabernacle's altar, a permanent fixture for centralized worship, built to last like a trusty Le Creuset skillet. Ever wonder how the Israelites kept their worship game strong while lugging a bronze altar through the desert? It's like packing a pop-up tent for quick prayers and a cathedral for sacred rituals, both holy, just pitched for different moments. The Zondervan Illustrated Bible Backgrounds commentary adds some archaeological spice, noting that the tabernacle's altar's hollow design was practical. A bronze-covered wooden frame could move with the camp, but filled with earth or stones when set up to handle the fire. This supports the Big Book of Bible Difficulties view, but also fits the two-altar theory, since the tabernacle altar was a specialized setup. So, which explanation wins? Same altar with an earth core, or different altars for different vibes? Well, let's play the theological tug-of-war. The Big Book of Bible Difficulties composite altar idea is like a Swiss Army knife. It's versatile and ties the passages together. The tabernacle altar's hollow frame, filled with earth or stones, could fulfill Exodus 20:24's earth requirement while matching the fancy specs in Exodus 27. The Zondervan commentary agrees, noting that ancient Near Eastern altars often use earth or stones inside a frame for fire resistance. It's like building a fire pit. You need a solid rim to hold it together, but the dirt inside keeps the flames from eating everything. This view is practical and elegant, like discovering your old pickup truck has a hidden turbo engine. But the two-altar theory is no slouch either. It respects the context of each passage. Exodus 20 is about worship anywhere, anytime, while Exodus 27 is tabernacle-specific. The ESV Study Bible leans this way, suggesting the earth altar was for spontaneous or local worship, while the tabernacle altar was a crafted, durable structure for formal rituals. It's like the difference between a campfire cookout and a Michelin star kitchen. Both get the job done, just in different settings. This view doesn't force the passages to describe the same altar, letting each do its own thing without textual arm twisting. Have you ever tried to reconcile two recipes for the same dish? That's what this feels like, but with higher stakes than burnt brownies. Now, let's toss in a wild card from the contradictions in the Bible, which argue there's a real conflict here, suggesting the passages come from different biblical traditions, one pushing simple earth altars, the other a fancier tabernacle setup. It's like saying my mom's spaghetti recipe and my dad's are from rival cookbooks, each claiming to be the true version. But this view assumes a contradiction that traditional scholarship, like the Big Book of Bible Difficulties or Zondervan, resolves without splitting the text into competing camps. Casey A. Sharp's thesis on ancient altars and Benjamin Kilchore's study on biblical law both see the Bible's unity holding up when you consider context or practical design. So, how do we land this plane without getting stuck in the theological weeds? Imagine you're an Israelite. Out in the desert, you pile up some dirt or stones for a quick sacrifice. Exodus 20:24 in action. No fuss, no muss. Later, at the tabernacle, you help set up that bronze-plated altar, maybe tossing in some earth to keep the fire going. Both scenarios fit God's instructions, just in different contexts. The Big Book of Bible Difficulties composite altar, wood frame, earth core, bridges the gap like a theological suspension bridge. But the two-altar view is just as sturdy, letting each passage stand on its own without forcing a merger. Ever thought about how God's instructions could work in both a pop-up tent and a sacred sanctuary? It's like He's got a plan for every spiritual zip code. Why does this matter? It's not just about dirt versus wood. It's about God meeting His people where they are. The earth altar says, "Worship me simply with what's at hand." The tabernacle altar says, "I'm establishing a sacred space for our covenant." Together, they show a God who's both approachable and awesome, like a friend who's cool with a backyard hangout but also deserves a red carpet gala. As Brian Newton writes, the regulations for the altar of earth show us that the Lord desires worship that is simple, sincere, and free from the corruption of idolatry. Whether it's a dirt mound or a bronze masterpiece, God's after our hearts, not our architectural skills. Now, zooming out, this puzzle reminds us the Bible's not a one-dimensional rule book. It's a rich, layered text that invites us to wrestle with it, like a theological escape room. Whether you buy the Big Book of Bible Difficulties composite altar or the two-altar theory, God's instructions made sense for the Israelites' lives, from desert wanderings to tabernacle worship. The Never Thirsty blog puts it well. These altars were about connecting with God, not competing for an HGTV award. John Calvin sums it up in his commentary. The earth altar's simplicity was to keep worship pure, free from human pride or pagan flesh. That's a truth that still resonates, whether we're in a desert or a megachurch. Why do you think God cared so much about the materials? It's like He's teaching us that worship is about the heart, not the hardware. So, what's the takeaway? First, don't panic over apparent contradictions. Context or design often clears things up. Second, God's flexible, giving His people ways to worship that fit their circumstances. Third, keep asking questions. Wrestling with these details sharpens our faith and proves the Bible can handle our scrutiny. As Ione Zevit notes in Biblical Archaeology Review, the altar debate reflects the Israelites' journey to balance simplicity and reverence in worship. That's the same challenge we still face today. So, whether you're praying in a quiet corner or a grand sanctuary, God's ready to meet you. Just bring your heart. Thanks for joining me on this dusty, bronze-plated adventure, folks. If this episode lit a spark, Let's keep the fire going. Drop your thoughts on our Bible Difficulties and Answers Facebook page or shoot me an email at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers@gmail.com. If you're digging the show, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or YouTube. All episodes are at BibleDifficultiesAndAnswers.podbean.com. Next Friday, we're tackling another brain teaser, Exodus 21:22-23. Does this passage show that unborn children are of less value than adults? Until then, I'm Lance Smith, wishing you good luck, good health, and God bless. So long, everybody.